Thank you, everyone. All right. So as a reminder, we've got this session, and then we've got a little break. But I'm very excited to announce our next speaker, Dalia Lasaite. And the talk is CGTrader, Lessons Learned from Converting Thousands of Products to 3D and AR. Dalia is the CEO and co-founder of CGTrader, the world's leading provider of 3D content. Dalia joined the company in 2015 and has been instrumental in growing the CGTrader community, including highly skilled professional 3D designers, which now tops 4.5 million. There's been an increase, which is amazing. Congratulations. CGTrader has two lines of business: CGTrader Stock Marketplace, the world's largest marketplace for 3D models, and CGTrader Arsenal, the end-to-end 3D product visualization platform for online retailers, which encompasses view in room, AR, 360 product viewing, and 3D rendering. So please welcome to the stage, Dalia. I'll pass the baton to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here live. So my name is Dalia Lasaite, and I'm a co-founder and CEO at CGTrader. Today, I'm here to talk about converting thousands of models to 3D, thousands of products to 3D, and the lessons we have learned during that process. So I'll start with a little bit of background about CGTrader and what we've seen happening in the market over the past several years. And then we'll go into more kind of deeper sharing of the lessons and insights we learned from all this process. So CGTrader is the world's leading provider of 3D models. Over the years, we have built a community of 4.5 million 3D designers, and we have more than 10 years of experience in this space. The company has worked with more than 500,000 customers, including 150 Fortune 500 companies, and we have done all kinds of projects of any complexity and scope. The company was started back in Lithuania, but we've expanded to the US, and we have worked with customers all over the world. And these customers include companies like Ashley Furniture, Google, Crate & Barrel, Shopify, and others. Now, CGTrader started as a stock 3D model marketplace with pre-made content. And more recently, we have launched Arsenal, which is solving the problem of custom 3D modeling. Arsenal is an engine for 3D content production that is focused on scale and quality. The way it works is that retailers bring us their products, their links to their products, and the images of their products, and we convert them to 3D models, and then we deliver any kind of visuals that they need. It can be stylus shots, can be lifestyle images, can be AR experiences or 3D experiences, or just raw 3D models, depending on the customer. With Arsenal, we also have very advanced QA system, which is essential when you work with thousands and thousands of 3D models, as well as digital asset management system to manage all these volumes. And the industries we have worked with include furniture, home decor, lifestyle goods, consumer electronics, fashion accessories, and fashion in general. So basically, pretty much across the board in terms of 3D modeling. Now, actually, we launched Arsenal at this very event. Actually, I think it was even in this room 2 years ago. And the world was a completely different place back then. So the pandemic accelerated e-commerce boom, and e-commerce was always on the upwards trajectory, but nobody expected to grow it so fast. Actually, in 2020, e-commerce sales grew by 200 billion in the US alone. And this, for many retailers, this has been a little bit of a challenge, right? And this is not only a US phenomenon, because the same happened in Europe and even on a bigger scale. So retailers not only needed to move online, but they also needed to recreate that in-store experience for the consumer so that they would feel comfortable buying the products online. At the same time, pandemic stopped a lot of things that you could do physically, right? So even organizing a photo shoot was a problem. And this brought really unprecedented challenges for retail. And these challenges come from two sides. So first of all, consumers are pushed to e-commerce. So they want the confidence and the in-store experience that they used to have. So they demand more and more visuals, right? More images, more AR experiences, 3D viewers, and things like that. At the same time, on the supply side, things are very, very complicated. Supply chains are disrupted. Anything like organizing a photo shoot is becoming really a logistical nightmare. And within the companies, they had to make this digital transformation very, very fast. So 3D solves most of these challenges. It removes the need for logistics, removes the need for shipping, and also addresses the need for massive content by the consumers. And some companies really prioritize 3D in their work. For example, Ashley Furniture has been reaping massive benefits from using 3D models in their work. So going through this process with our customers, we have learned some things, what it really means to scale 3D. If you think about it, barriers to start with 3D are pretty low if you just are getting started, but scaling is very, very complex. So the first thing that we always advise the customers is think very deeply about the use case. Sometimes there's a perception that 3D model is just a 3D model, and you will be able to push it to any application you like, whether it's replacing a photography or AR experiences. And that's actually not the case in reality. So you need to think about not only how you will use these 3D models now, but what you plan to do with them several years down the line. And if you are thinking that you are now replacing photography with 3D, but you might want to use it for AR experiences, you need to think about that and set the pipeline in the way already now, because otherwise it might be necessary to make quite costly adjustments. So once you know the use case, then we recommend to start really small. Pick 5 products and just create the models of these 5 products. And then test them in all the applications you plan to use them in. Test them in the live environment in your website, see how it works, and see if the technical requirements need to be adjusted or anything needs to be updated. So we once had a case where we needed to manually adjust 1,000 models, and it's very painful. We don't recommend that. So that's why we always start small before the scaling. Now, in terms of the process, there are typically 2 things that, as a retailer, you have to bear in mind. The first one is reference images. So 3D modeling doesn't require very high-quality 3D images. It can be even mobile phone images, but you want to make sure the designer is not guessing what's behind the sofa, right, and not making assumptions. So if you have the products already on your website, you can just send the links, and typically that's enough information to start the production. If not, you need to think about how you will source it and who will do it internally, and how you can import them to Arsenal, how this will work on your side. And then the other aspect is QA. So once you start scalable production, you start getting hundreds or tens of models per day, and somebody needs to review it. Of course, these models have already passed the technical QA, the visual QA from our side, but still the final approval is on the client side. We have built a massive system for QA to make sure that this process is as easy as possible, but still, it's a time-consuming process that you need to take into account. And we have seen some good practices as well with integrating as much as possible into the customer systems so that to minimize the time needed to and approve these 3D models. Now, one of the most common questions we get is how much time will it take, right? How much time will it take to make 1,000 models? And it's important to understand that this is a parallel process, meaning that 1,000 models is not done sequentially. It's done in parallel, and it's done by hundreds of designers. So we have several tracks. Let's say we have fast track that is more for urgent projects, higher cost, and more designers on board. And then we have a standard pipeline. And then we have custom pipeline, where it involves additional preparations from the technical side and maybe some custom development. And so the custom pipeline is, of course, the longest. However, the way it works, as you can see from this graph, you start getting models pretty quickly after the production starts. And you might get even 20% of the models as soon as within 5 or 10 days of the production. And then the other models are kind of rolling in over time. The models that are on the, between 90% and 100% sometimes are like a little bit more complex, or they are child models, which means that they are done on the basis of the previous models that have been done before. Another consideration that you should bear in mind is the resources internally that you need to work with 3D. So Arsenal doesn't need technical expertise to use it. But when we see companies looking at this strategically, very often they have technical 3D expertise in-house. And this is something you should consider, because that helps to understand the best pipeline, the best technologies, and the best approach that you take towards scaling 3D. Now, very often the business case comes also from a cost perspective for 3D. So we have actually done a research where we reached out to 100+ studios, photography studios, all around the world with 5 products and with a brief to create 5 silo images as well as a lifestyle scene for each product. And we compare that cost to 3D. So the average cost for this type of project is around $11,000, and actually over 60% of the cost comes from the logistics. So as you might imagine, logistics becomes more difficult with the size and transportation of the product. So if your products are delicate or if your products are large, then 3D makes even more sense. Now with 3D, this cost amounts to around $2,000, right, for the very same outcome. And very often you can't tell the difference between photography and the 3D model. So with 3D, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because what you can also save is basically reusing the same models for producing other campaigns, and reusing the models for variations, color variations. If you think about photography, that's where you need to actually do it from scratch, right? For every color, you need to manufacture the product and have it in the stock. So summarizing the key learnings, what we see from our experience with these thousands of products is think really deeply about the use cases. Make sure that you start small and test. This is the best practice that we always recommend. And then think about the QA process as well as the reference images on your end. The internal 3D expertise, as I mentioned, is optional, but it's very helpful, especially if you are scaling and if you are thinking strategically about this. And finally, the business case is very related to cost savings as well, especially when we are talking about replacing photography with 3D. So thank you very much for the attention, and I would like to invite any questions you might have. Happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you. One quick question. When you talk about having 3D experience in-house, does that help with the quality checks afterwards, or are you talking about perhaps sending you rough models instead of photos?
I think one of the main benefits is understanding the technical requirements and working with the applications, how you will use 3D, right, in your company. And of course, for QA process is very visual, but we have seen some customers working with 3D designers to do QA, so they understand a little bit better, right, what's going on with the model. But theoretically, it's basically a comparison side by side that doesn't need a special software or anything like that. You can place directly on the model saying that, please make this, this side more dark or something like that. So it's a visual QA.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the talk. Do you have any data from your client or otherwise to see if 3D is actually making the conversion better, or the consumers are actually liking 3D over pictures?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So we have done a few case studies, and there definitely seems to be increase in conversion, reduction of returns, and so on. We have seen that some customers don't want to share the data too much because they see it as a competitive advantage. And I think during the pandemic, and as we move to a more digital remote work, this is also a lifesaver in terms of operations, right? So you can't, I mean, in some cases, you just can't do photography. That's it.
Quick second question. So
Yeah.
you talked about fashion. What kind of stuff are getting 3D converted in fashion?
Yeah, so mostly accessories, shoes, bags, things like that. We are seeing some interest in clothes. It's still, there are basically kind of two types of applications. One of them is just having kind of, t-shirt placed nicely on the website, and the other is virtual try-on. Try-on is, I think that it's a very promising technology, but it's still a little bit early, I would say, in the market.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the talk. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
I'm very interested in the pricing behind these models.
Yeah.
It's impossible to price thousands of models unless you review all of them. Is it based on scale, or is it based on the time frame of the deliverable, or a little bit of both?
Oh, that's a very good question. That's actually something that we are working a lot on internally. So initially, we started with manual review of all products and assigning them a complexity of 1 to 10, and then pricing based on that. Right now, we are automating that with the AI, and this will help us price automatically. And we have tried different approaches. For example, we have tried pricing based on category, because by now we already have enough data what's the average price for a lamp, right? And what's the deviation from average. But still, the complexity-based pricing seems to bring the most kind of accurate results.
And your clients are okay with, they understand the idea that a chair is more complicated than a lamp, for the most part?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. Because that's the thing with 3D models. The pricing for a carpet versus some intricate sculpture, it can be like almost 10 times, 5 times. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi there. So I'm assuming you're leveraging your 4.5 million modeler network for your labor pool. Do you find that with Arsenal enterprise clients who need volume, that the crowdsourced labor model is difficult to maintain quality standards, or do you have to pool that labor into larger teams?
Yeah, so actually we worked a lot on the designer side and to make sure that we address this question, right? Because designers they have all kinds of levels, right? Some are just beginning in their journey. Some are more advanced. Some can make very good simple models, but can't make complex models. So we have algorithms that evaluate each designer and the complexity level that they can handle. And they also have personal multipliers based on their performance over time. And in Arsenal, it's not a kind of broad system that anyone can come in. We pre-qualify all designers that are on board. And then we have our internal QA team that ensures the level of quality. So we have heard from our customers that our main advantages are scale, quality, and at the same time very attractive price ratio. So quality for e-commerce is essential. It's you can't otherwise. It has to look real. So that's why we put a lot of attention into that.
So I have a part 2 to this question. Does your network consist of mostly individual modelers, or do you also have studios that onboard as part of your marketplace?
Yeah, so it's quite a lot of individual designers, but we are starting to work with studios. So it's a combination.
Great. I'll come talk to you after.
All right.
Hey, Dalia. Is there a sweet spot for for the model size for downloadable, like a WebXR, WebAR that you guys tried to shoot for? I'm wondering what that is. I know what it is for us. I'm interested in hearing what it is for you guys.
Yeah, so it very much depends on the application. If you are talking about, some of the applications like 3D ads can be really, really, very tight with the file size, right? So you need to really make sure that they are, even less than 5 megabytes or something like that. But then this is also a function of the model itself, right? Because if you have a single model, a simple model, you have the budget of the size should be much lower, right? You don't want some kind of, I don't know, simple chair and being quite large. So we have a low poly pipeline, and then we educate designers on these things. And sometimes it's a little bit pushed because of the application to even lower poly counts.
And I might have missed it in your presentation, so sorry if I did, but do you guys also put rigging animation in place for the models?
Not so much, mostly focused on the modeling, geometry, and texture.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dalia. Great insights on scaling 3D.